Good morning, Ms. Méndez and classmates. My name is Marcela Murillo, and I am going to present my oral presentation in relation to an analysis of speaking assessment. As a general information, I want to mention that I am going to analyze an exam from a public school. The name of the school is Santa Marta School in San Francisco. And next, I am going to do a brief slideshow of my findings and my analysis. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the content and objectives. Before I do that, I want to mention that I divided the exam into three parts. The first part is the contents and objectives. Contents are family members, relationship among family members, electronic devices, house appliances, and the objectives are identify family members, recognize electronic devices from a picture, and identify house appliances and their function. Okay, next, the heading of the exam states all the information such as the school name, the name of the teacher, the grade level of the students, the date. Something that gets my attention is the fact that it doesn't say the day, just the month and the year. And I have two observations over here to comment about, which is according to MEP regulations, there must be a clear rule for percentage versus points. In this case, this exam exceeded 11 points, which that is good. As you can see, the time, the total points is 36 points and the percentage is 25%, which means that exceeded in the 11 points, and based on MEP regulations, it should exceed in 10, so that is good. Now, I want to refer also to the time allowed. As you can see, it allowed 10 minutes per student. And when I was analyzing the chapter of assessing speaking, mainly informal speaking assessment techniques, it's advisable that each student needs 15 minutes to ensure that the information that a rater, or in this case a teacher, receives is reliable. And as you can see in this case, it only allowed 10 minutes per student. That is as far of the heading. Now, if I go over to the general instructions, this part wasn't very specific or clear. I want to refer myself to the fact that the exam total value was 36 points, but in the grading criteria or the general instructions, that wasn't specified. And I am going to refer myself later on in my presentation regarding that. Now, the other part that was included in the exam was the rubric. As you can see, it was provided, but these are the instructions. It says, listen carefully to the teacher and give correct, complete answers in oral form. To me, these instructions are incomplete because the teacher should have give clear instructions. For example, different outcomes, and explain to students with an example the different scenarios or situations. That's one thing. The other point that I want to mention is that it wasn't specified that for each prompt that they get correct, they will get, each prompt had a total value of 6 points. As you can see, there are 6 items that the students are going to be evaluated: pronunciation, fluency, vocabulary, structures, which is grammar, listening comprehension, and clear speech. And something that got my attention is that with the use of rubrics, because the students have to produce complete sentences, which is this case, according to the MEP regulations, the zero cannot be part of a rubric. That is why the rubrics usually ranges from 5 points to 1 point, which is the case here. Now, however, these in private schools might change. They might have a different grading criteria. Now, the next part of the exam is the prompts. And I'm sorry that this exam is a bit tilted, but that's the way I receive these from the teacher. As you can see, there are 6 prompts. What are the members in your family? Who's your father or brother? Look at the picture. What is this? And they have to answer with the corresponding electronic object. Where is the stove? And the corresponding position of the object. I have a comment here or an observation, which is that in the content, it doesn't say that prepositions or location words are going to be evaluated. It was going to be evaluated the vocabulary itself. It seems like over here the teacher is showing them a picture of a stove or a blender or a refrigerator, and they have to say where in the kitchen this item is located, and that is not part of the objectives or the content itself. Now, as far as the techniques, is recommended that the students perform best when they are led through different stages. For example, a warm-up, level check, probe, and wind down. But in this case, as you can see, a warm-up wasn't provided. The teacher went straight to direct to the questions. In this case, the variation of framework, what the teacher used was picture cues or visuals. That is good for descriptions. However, this was the only technique used for the entire exam. And we know that we have, as possible variations, we can use different things such as a prepared monologue, a role play, a gap activity, or even in this case for the topic that was going to be evaluated, it could be just an informal conversation in which they're giving a flashcard. It's called extemporaneous speaking, where students are giving a topic and they are asked to speak for 1 or 2 minutes. So we can see here that for the contents and objective, that the teacher was able to do different or use different techniques. However, in this exam, she only decided to use one. Now, another observation is that it seems to be that she was using pictures. And when we have students producing out of pictures, it's advisable to have several pictures. The recommendation is to use between 10 and 12 so the students can pick them up from a pile. If we have the same pictures, or per se 3 or 4 pictures for all the students, the first students will tell the rest what the pictures are about. Another thing that I want to make the observation is the fact that the group of these 6th graders are 30 students in total. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the time allowed per student was 10 minutes. This means that the teacher needed more than 80 minutes if it's the case that she had 80 minutes available to evaluate all the students. So in my findings as cornerstones violations, one of the things that I can mention is the reliability, which means that the same test was administered to the same group of students. In this case also, the practicality, in a group of 30 students, there wasn't enough time to mark the exam within the available time. And we know that since an oral test is time consuming, We can have students work in pairs. In this case, that wasn't the case. So I wonder, what did the teacher do while evaluating one student with the rest of the class? That's something for us as future teachers to think about that. And another thing is the usefulness. These are sixth graders. The level of the class, when I asked the teacher, is intermediate, and she's evaluating house appliances, the function, also family members. I consider that for sixth graders that is too basic. Teachers can use real life situations, and situations in which it could be more meaningful for the students to apply for them in real life. Okay, so these were my findings. Before I finish my presentation, I want to make one last observation in relation to the rubrics, that there wasn't any feedback or comment space available for the students. And we have to remember, when we're evaluating oral skills, that a feedback in a timely manner is very important for the students in order to be meaningful. This is the end of my presentation. I want to thank you for your time.